In times of trauma and adversity, we must create space for connection by sharing a story of hope. Welcome to Stories of Hope Worldwide, hosted by Kerry Atherton. This podcast shares inspiring stories of individuals who have faced significant challenges and emerged stronger, offering hope and resilience to listeners all over the world. Join Kerry, the founder of Stories of Hope, every week to hear these remarkable journeys and find strength to overcome your adversity. Now, let's listen in to this week's conversation.
Welcome to another episode of Stories of Hope Worldwide. Today I have a beautiful and very brave lady with me, Tes Cruz, who's never shared this story in public before. Today we're going to be talking about suicide, heartache, struggles and hardship, but also about great resilience and great hope. Welcome, Tes.
Thanks, Kerry, for inviting me today.
Thank you so much for being willing to share this story, because I met you on LinkedIn and we're both very, very passionate about suicide prevention, about mental health for anybody that's struggling, but particularly for men. And you have your own very personal journey, which is really, really heartbreaking, but it's a journey that I know and a story that you really know needs to be told and that you really want to share in the hope of saving other lives today. And
yes,
for all those other families that are struggling after losing a loved one to suicide. So, Tes, you sent me your story and you've been through a lot in your life, but can we just start back from when you were young, because you grew up in the midst of domestic violence?
Yes. So growing up, I do remember my mum leaving home when I was 7 years old. And it is because there was domestic violence present in our household. And I never saw my mum till after I graduated university.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was tough growing up because we were four girls and one boy. And as you would know, it's very difficult growing without a mother because obviously all these changes in your body as a teenager, you would want to have to ask someone that's close to you and someone that you trusted, like a mum.
Yeah.
But I didn't have that. So it was tough growing up. So obviously that's a feeling of abandonment at the age of 7 years old and growing up without a mother, and then pushing through all the challenges of being with my dad and growing up with an environment of fear, because obviously my dad's got a temper.
And you also wrote that you had a real sense of that if you were perfect and you were a high achiever, then you would feel like your dad would be happy with you and accept you.
Yes, there is a huge pressure of being a good student, an obedient daughter, and, obviously quite good with activities in terms of dancing, like the extracurricular activities in school. We were 5, and amongst the 5 children, I became my dad's favorite because of that reason.
Right.
I followed every single rule, no boyfriends during university and high school, going home early, straight after school, and achieving in academics. So that was very important to him.
And the thing that really struck me so much about you was the wonderful work you do. The team, you lead such a large team of people. And it's a real lesson for everyone, isn't it, that we can never judge from the outside looking in. So often we look at people and we think, oh, they're successful, they've got everything going for them. They've got the world at their feet. I've had many people look at me and think, oh, she copes with everything and she does this and does that. But people only see today. They haven't seen the first half of our journey and where it took to get to where we are today. And you've really inspired me. I've seen the way you care about the people that you lead. And then you opened up to me this day when you made contact and shared your deeply personal story of the loss of your own husband to suicide, I was just like, wow, I couldn't believe it. And I thought, how brave, firstly, that you've decided to share this story for the first time. And I think it really gives a voice to everybody that's going through struggles from behind closed doors.
Well, I thought today was actually perfect timing. As you know, Sunday is Father's Day.
Yeah.
And so it is just a good timing to remember him, being a good father, being a good husband, but he's no longer with us. So that's one thing. During the pandemic too was another reason why I thought I really needed to come out. The other night I was watching a current affair feature about Lifeline and how many calls do they get of people just couldn't cope with the pandemic and obviously the isolation that it makes because of the lockdowns.
Yeah.
I just thought if I could just say my story and maybe if we can change people's minds when they do that, flick of a switch of making a decision of committing suicide, because that's like an exclamation point. It's the end for them.
Yeah.
But for people like myself, that we go through life, we are still facing life and all its challenges.
Yeah.
And we are facing it alone because technically our partners or, of a family member have actually committed suicide. So, for these reasons, I thought this is probably the best time to be able to do it. Two things. It's Father's Day. The number of cases of people just feeling so lonely and helpless during this pandemic's just really made me think that I can probably help people realize that it may end for the people who passed away, but the challenges and the struggles still remain for people who are here on earth.
It's such a powerful message. And we learn, like, I'm a counsellor and done a lot of work with men's mental health and a lot of study. Suicide prevention is something that really drives me because I've been touched by it myself. I planned that when I was 18 and didn't end up doing that.
Yes.
My family, I've lost family members. We hear that when a person takes their life, that more than 150 people are severely adversely affected by that loss.
Yes.
And when I was doing the Men in Mind study, there was a lot of teaching about male suicide in males. And one of the things and the false beliefs that many guys think is that my family will be better off without me. And nothing could be further from the truth, could it, Tes?
No.
You're a testament to that fact. Their families need them around.
Yeah. Well, I would tell you that the ripple effect of a loved one's death is not just during the day that he passed away. My Emmanuel passed away 31st of January in 2012. Samantha was only 17 years old.
Yeah.
So Samantha was our only daughter. During that time, it's her first day of HSC. So I don't really think that he thought it through, the effect on her,
Yeah.
but also the effect on me. So twofolds, the effect on the daughter who's lost her father and she's going through teenage years. I think that was really, really tough. And having to go through the exams through that year and preparing for that exam is another tough thing that she had to just push back in terms of her grief process. Unfortunately, though, it resurfaced 2 years after, and that's the reason why she moved out of home several times, and we've had relationship issues. As for me, being the wife that was left behind, I had to first support a daughter. So that was forefront in my mind that I had to be strong for her.
Yeah.
That I had to push my own grief aside, that I didn't want to think about myself because I have a daughter to think about. Secondly, unfortunately, we belong in a world of really complicated relationships with friends, with people in our own families, that sometimes you have to remove and cut off people in your life because of the toxic type of relationship that you have with them. And that only surfaced even more when Emmanuel passed away.
Right. I did ask your permission before the interview about whether you could take us back to that fateful day.
Yeah.
And you did say that you were happy to share that day. Just for the fact of letting people out there understand what it's like when this happens and the traumatizing effect that it has on a loved one.
So to go back in time, he passed away 31st of January 2012. I saw him that morning. I kissed him goodbye. I said, I'm going to work. I have a few meetings to attend to, but I'll be back around about 2. If you could wait for me, we can have lunch together. We kiss each other goodbye. And that was it. Samantha, on the other hand, it was her first day of HSC year. So I think they had an opportunity for him to take her to school that morning. The reason why Emmanuel was at home, it's because he's taken 6 weeks off work due to stress, anxiety, and depression. But that was also his first day back at work. And he had asked permission to actually work from home that day instead of having to physically go to the office.
Yeah.
And they've agreed. And so I went to work. I came back home, and walking in through the garage door, I just saw rope like on the floor. And I was even kind of furious because obviously it was messy. And I then started screaming, for him, but I was on the phone with my brother at the same time. And I said to my brother, let me just call out for him. When I did look up at the stairs, he was sitting down. So the rope was tied against the 2 poles of the stairs, like the 2 ends of the stairs, and he was sitting in the middle. So he was not suspended, but obviously he's cut away his source of oxygen. I took him down. I don't know where my strength came from, but I brought him down to do CPR. But I rang the emergency line to request for assistance on how to do it. But they've given me instructions to unlock the front door, and then they'll call the ambulance. So, and then I started going and giving him CPR. I couldn't tell if he was still with me or not. I just wanted to be able to help him out. The ambulance arrived. I obviously stood up to give them space to assist him, but then they said to me that he's gone. Just one look at him, they said that he's gone and he's passed away. Obviously started to be hysterical, and they said, well, why can't you just go to him and help me? Yeah, so they then obviously called the police. The police came, and I was asked to stay in one part of the house, and I could ring someone to assist me on that day. But I did say that my daughter is in school and that I need to go and pick her up.
Yeah.
But the police said that I can't leave home. So, during the time of dire need, you can't think of maybe I should ask my friend to go and pick up my girlfriend, to ring up my girlfriend or anyone that I know of that would be at home and would be available to pick up Samantha from school. And I couldn't think of anyone that would be free. So the police had to go and pick her up. At the time, I really couldn't think that that would be a very traumatic experience for a young girl to be taken away in a police car. But at that time, I could think very clearly I couldn't.
So, Tess, what were the signs? Did you see any signs? This is something that probably is so important to talk about because people look back and say, oh, now I can see that there were signs, but at the time, they're almost unrecognisable. But by talking about the signs, hopefully your hope is that we can prevent other husbands and fathers from taking their life.
All I know is we were actually seeking help. I knew that he was complaining about he can't focus on work that he can't sleep. So obviously he was anxious about something that's going on at his workplace.
Yeah.
And so we did see a doctor who then recommended that we see a psychologist. And during his first session, I was there with him. And then the psychologist actually say that from here on now, he needs to come himself, and they would need to really get into the bottom of what would be the cause of his depression and anxiety. So he was diagnosed with depression and anxiety. Further on, I think, as you would know, with men, they don't like talking about their feelings. So I think that was the most difficult part for me, because he wouldn't want to go and have a conversation with me. But I think he was opening up to the psychologist with his, obviously meetings and counseling sessions. So, yeah, it was very difficult for us, because I don't know how it is to be feeling depressed, or even understanding how it is to be anxious about something or depressed. And so I didn't quite understand, why couldn't he sleep? He was waking up at 3 o'clock in the morning and going down, and I think he was trying to work. But he told me once, I remember him saying to me that he would switch on his work laptop and it was blank. He just didn't know where to begin in terms of where to go. And he said that the screen was blank, and he was like saying, why is it blank?
Okay.
And I'm thinking, obviously, that's one of the things that his mind is probably doing at the same time. It was blocking, and obviously he's lost his focus on work.
Sounds like he was deeply troubled by
Yes.
and the pressure and the load there, which is often something that really plays on men's minds.
Yeah. As you know, with men, I think the important thing for them is being able to be the provider for the family.
Yeah.
I think they put a lot of pressure in themselves. And even though we both worked, so we share the load in terms of earning an income, I think they just have that thing of, I wanted to be the provider. I wanted to look after my family. I wanted to look after you, even though, I'm an independent woman and I do work and I do contribute to the financial stability of our household. So, yeah, I think it played a lot in his mind.
Tess, what would you say to all those guys out there who are at a point of feeling like the pressure's too great to provide for my family, but they're that low that they actually need help? What would you say to them from a wife and a mum's point of view to them as husbands?
Well, we now belong in an age wherein both parents do work. The reality is the burden is not on one shoulder. It's actually on both of us. So in terms of the logistics, I think they just need to understand that the times have changed. We don't put all the burden on one person anymore. It's actually shared by two individuals who are independent of each other in terms of work, in terms of earning an income. I just truly just encourage people to talk. Communication is so important. And if I could turn back time, I would probably have forced him to just to talk to me. I would probably have just said to him, I want us to sit down, no interruptions.
Yeah.
We'll bring Samantha to a girlfriend's house and it's just the two of us.
Yeah.
And let's just talk. And if there was a particular incident or a huge problem at his workplace, it could have been solved in a way that I would have agreed for him to resign.
So really opening up the communication with your partner.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great.
Because again, at the same time too, if he doesn't feel comfortable with me in terms of, feeling vulnerable and feeling a bit, oh, I'm supposed to be looking after you and now the tables are turned and now you're looking after me. That would have been easily helped too with maybe bringing in a friend of his in the conversation. And it would be the three of us having a group session as such. And these are the people that he trusted. So I'm assuming that he would be able to open up, right? So there would be ways, but then it was really his personality too. Emmanuel's a very quiet guy. I'm out the outgoing. I love seeing people like yourself, but he's a very shy and reserved guy. And so having a conversation about your feelings is always going to be quite difficult with him.
Yeah.
But I just thought if I had probably pushed him for the sake of, our relationship, the family, he may have succumbed to really opening up and telling me what's causing his issues at work or the problems that he's actually experiencing at work.
And, I'm sure he's with you right now, spreading this message loud and clear.
What is the most important thing that I think people, men and women should think about is if they are thinking that she's better off without me or he's better off without me, that's definitely far from the truth. That is not what happened to me. Through having a breakdown of relationship with my only daughter, which was kind of difficult to even think of.
Yeah.
I've lost friends because I come from a Christian church, and it's very hard for them to understand why would anyone who says that they believe in God would commit suicide. And so they had doubts. They doubted that he was a Christian to start with. That was very painful.
That really disturbs me hearing that, because I have a faith myself, and I would never sit in on judgment on somebody who became that mentally unwell that they took their life.
Yeah.
When people take their life, they're not in a sane state.
Yeah.
The cognitive impairment to make a rational decision at that moment. And so coming from that side to you, Tess, I want to say that you have all my compassion and there's no judgment at all. And your husband was sick at the time.
Which brings me to the point of, if he had died of a heart attack, I think everyone would just come to your rescue and they really want to hold you and hug you. Because the cause of his death is suicide, that made it so difficult for me to move on, because there's stigma that's related to cause of death that's basically related to suicide.
Yeah. There's too much judgment out in the world, and that's something that just doesn't sit with me at all. I talk to people from all walks of life, people who have done unimaginable things in the midst of addictions or not being mentally well, made mistakes, and I always say, doesn't matter who we are, what we do, we're all on a journey. We all make mistakes. We all make decisions that we wished, we could have changed or taken back. And we all need to have grace with each other.
Yes. Well, one thing also that I've now remembered through my journey in my life, and, obviously I've gone through quite a number of different challenges along the way, different struggles. At the age of 7, obviously I felt abandoned as a child by my mum, because they obviously couldn't reconcile. And then my father passed away in 2005.
Oh.
And his passing was also kind of kick in the gut, because we were traveling to see him. We planned a holiday to actually see him and be with him. But he passed away 3 days before I arrived. So, so that was difficult to go through as well.
Yeah.
And then obviously in 2012, it was my husband, Emmanuel. And then after that, obviously my daughter leaving home was another struggle for me. And I felt really abandoned as a mother, but I also felt that, our differences, the challenges of the grief that caused the breakdown in our relationship was obviously kind of difficult for me to understand, because we were supposed to be even more closer, wouldn't you think, that because we are the only ones left. that
Yeah.
we should be here to support one another, and that obviously didn't happen.
Yeah, and that in itself is so evident of the trail of destruction that suicide brings
Yes.
to so many. We said at the beginning, didn't we, that this story was about hardships and struggles, but also about hope and resilience.
Yes.
And you are such a resilient woman. I watch you from afar. And I mean, I admired you when I first saw you, but then after you shared your story with me, seriously, my admiration went to next level.
So being a single mom,
Yeah,
you just have to go and put the hat of being a father and a mother, right? So all the more that I had to be focused on my job as now both parents for our only daughter.
would you like to
3
tell us
weeks.
what your job is?
I actually work for a bank, and I train and build relationships with finance brokers. And so these people obviously have customers that wanted to get a home loan to buy as a first time buyer, or might be an investor, or might be wanting to go and do a wealth creation program of increasing their wealth by buying more and more investment properties. So that job alone, right? So you wouldn't believe it. After Emmanuel's death, 3 weeks after, I went back to work.
Right.
And my boss at that time said, "You don't need to come back straight away. You know, the job is secured. We just want you to really be ready when you do come back."
Yeah.
I begged him. I I said, I really wanted to go back to work because I wanted to remain focused with my duty to my brokers and my customers. But at the same time, it's giving me a sense of purpose. And I needed that at this point in time because obviously
Yeah.
everything's just gone to oblivion in terms of, okay, I was a wife and now I am a mother, but I still needed to have my own identity as an employee and a worker, and a good worker at that. So I went back to work, and that year I blitz all the targets at work. And it's because I really strongly believe that my sense of purpose is not only to help my daughter out in terms of her grief process and my own grief process, but also to be a strong partner in terms of the broker business, but also to encourage people to, maintain mental health.
Yes.
And when I did go back to work, I actually shared my story one to one, face to face, when I do go out for meetings. And obviously, I'm always like this emotional criteria.
Yeah.
And I know I've touched a few. I really particularly remember this broker had said to me, ever since we've had that conversation, Tess, I've decided to get help because he was also suffering from depression. He was on medication and he said that the medication wasn't working and he just wanted to end it.
Right.
And my words to him was, remember my story every single time you are thinking of doing something that would hurt your family, because you can't go back, can't change it. And their lives are changed forever.
Yes. And suicide is it's a permanent solution to a temporary problem.
Yes. So, and then obviously it's now years after he's passed away. I actually moved on and I remarried. My daughter's back home, which is extra special.
And you met your husband in a support group, is that right?
Yes, yeah.
So can you quickly tell us what the support group was about?
So we both attended a suicide support group for families that were left behind by loved ones. So my now husband's partner also committed suicide, and that's the reason why we met.
Wow.
Our stories are quite the same in a way that we would be able to support each other and understand each other.
Yeah. And we've talked a lot about male suicide today, but the statistics truly are that more females actually attempt suicide than men.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, that's actually the truth. But the reason that more men die is because of the lethal means that they choose.
Right.
So it's very much a story today now that you've brought this part of the story up, that we're talking to men and women about please, before you make that decision,
Yes.
when you recognise the first signs that you're not coping well mentally, seek help, because your families and the people you leave behind are not better off with you gone. They need you here.
Yeah.
And so you met him there, and then you married.
Yes. So we got married in 2015.
Wow.
Yeah. And it's not easy because obviously there's a lot of hurt from previous relationship that you always think that something might happen and he might just go to one day. And so we constantly support one another in terms of our own grief processes. There's dates that are important. So her birthday, his birthday, her death anniversary, his death anniversary. When I want to go to, let's say, visit Emmanuel at the cemetery, he wanted to go and support me and come with me. So I think it's kind of strange that because of the similarity of the experience that we were brought together by something that's so tragic.
Yeah.
And because he knew the pain, that he would be able to give me the support that I need, and vice versa. So
that's a story of hope right there, isn't it?
yeah.
Out of the terrible pain has come the wonderful purpose that you have today to help impact and change so many lives, and the beautiful relationship that has come to you through that tragic circumstance where you can both be open, and today together a force where two people can join together and make like a tenfold impact in the event of suicide.
So we've come to today, and, I'm still going strong with regards to work. That's another thing that I am so thankful for. My ability to just stay focused on what I have to do to be able to help customers and brokers is probably unbelievable and amazing in itself. But because of that purpose, I think people do know the genuine feeling of my assistance and my support for their business. And so they support me back by submitting loans to the bank that I work with. So, yes. And to be recognized within the industry, as you know, you've looked from afar in terms of the recognition of awards and being finalists, and that's internally and externally, is something that I will always treasure, because, as you know, in any customer related or front facing type of roles, sometimes 9 out of 10 you hear the complaints, but you never hear the real thank yous for the good job that you actually do. Yeah. And so the recognition and the awards are just an icing on top of the cake, because it just shows that people notice that I am really a good worker.
Oh, and a wonderful person, a wonderful, caring, empathetic person.
Oh, thank you. And you would have seen my posts on LinkedIn that every now and then I would just do a lockdown check-in with my brokers.
Yeah.
It's an opportunity of not to talk about business. Let's not talk about work. Let's not talk about the issues, the scenarios. We don't talk about anything. It was just an hour of being able to share stories of resilience, of sharing stories or ideas and how to beat the blues during lockdown.
Yeah.
We play games.
I love that.
Yeah, so we'll prepare a game or two just to, just keep their mind out of work and the challenges that it poses every day. So, yeah.
And relationships and connection are so important, and I'll really reiterate that. And even if it's with the person that is managing you directly, just having that person that you check in with, that you keep connecting with, no matter how bad you're feeling, is literally a lifeline for many.
Yeah. It's actually funny because I think some of the brokers obviously know my story, because as soon as it happened, unfortunately that day, my mobile phone got redirected to someone at work. And some of them had said, we want to go and give support. So my employer, with my permission, was able to say that something's happened with Tessa's husband at work. And the amount of support, people have come to my house, people have sent flowers. That was a sign that I may have touched them more than, the number of ways that you just go and say it's just a business relationship, but it's more than that. So I will never forget those times. And I'm thankful that the brokers, they value our relationship, our customers too. So, yeah.
So much. I've got goosebumps when you were talking about that. Oh, Tess, well, before we wrap up, what would be your message for the world?
We've got to talk more. Yeah, right. So we've got all the technology in the world to stay connected. And so that's what we need to do. The question of, are you okay? I think we've got to go and ask that more often than not, because we don't know what the other person is feeling on the other side of the phone conversation. When you walk your dogs down the road, I think we can still ask the question of, a neighbor that you saw, that might be looking problematic, and go, oh, have you got 5 minutes just to have a chat? Are you okay? Because you just don't know what that other person is feeling at that point in time. And we could really save a life.
Yeah.
The other one is, we've got to hang on to someone that's bigger than you and me, and that is a God. Having faith has been so instrumental, even though I did tell you the story about the church and I had to leave that church.
Yeah.
I left the church, but I didn't leave my faith.
God lives outside the church too.
That's right.
He lives in here. You don't
Yes.
have to go to church.
Yes.
Be a Christian, or it's God lives in our hearts. And
that's right.
Yeah.
And so every single time that I'm going to go and do something, I pray. So every morning I pray. We've got to go and give thanks. The truth of the matter is, we still have our health.
Yeah.
I am alive, and I've got to be thankful for that. I still have my job. I'm still earning an income. I still have my own home, and my family. They're all safe.
Yeah.
So if you start your prayer with a thank you, I think that you're going to be ahead of the game already in terms of feeling positive for your day. And the last thing that I want to say is, when it's really getting tough, don't hesitate to ask for help. There's plenty around you. For one, is your counselor, and I'm sure that people go to you because you're very open in your role in helping out mental health issues. So they can come to you. They can go to a counseling session, same way I did. They can go and seek a psychologist for, obviously some medical help. But there's also people like Lifeline, there's Black Dog. There's a lot of other movements and a lot of help that is available out there, that if you don't feel comfortable in speaking to your partner, seek help.
That's wonderful. I love all those points. And I'm so glad that you mentioned Lifeline and Black Dog Institute, Beyond Blue.
Yes.
Keep those numbers handy. If you need somewhere, they're always there. If you need someone to talk to.
That's right.
Well, thank you so much, Tess. This is such an important conversation and was such an amazing interview. And I haven't had anybody speak from your perspective before. It was something that when you said that you'd like to share your story, I was just so honoured. I'm so honoured that you chose Stories of Hope Worldwide to share your story. Together is better. Together we can make a difference. Together we can help change the world. Together we can help save lives. Thank you, Tess.
Virtual hug to you, Carrie.
You too.
Thank you for listening to Stories of Hope with Kerry Atherton. If this conversation helped you, please consider sharing the podcast with a friend or leaving a rating and review on your podcast player. If you'd like to find out more about Kerry Atherton, head to storiesofhope.com.au, where you can purchase her books or find her next event. Check the show notes for links and information about our guest in this episode, and remember, you don't have to walk your path alone.